Hi, good morning. It's a good start to the series expiry today. You have the Nifty 50 that is trading higher by about 0.2%, which is understandable considering that we are flirting with all-time highs, very close to that mark. Currently Nifty 50 at 16,665 or thereabouts. You have the broader markets that are currently outperforming, but only just. You have the mid-cap index that's up about 0.6%, and you have the small cap index that's about 0.5% higher. But do remember, like I mentioned, this is series expiry, so you could see a volatility creep up over the course of today's session. Now, among the gainers, you have HDFC Life that continues to march forward. It's had a stellar run in the recent past. It's as high as 1.8% higher in trade today. But then you have the big boy, Reliance Industries, that is trading 1.6% higher, perhaps playing catch up to a certain extent with the rest of the Nifty 50, and that's lending quite a bit of support to the benchmark index. Quite a few other stocks also. I will read down the list. HCL Tech, you have Adani Port, Tata Consumer, Wipro, TCS. So you see that the tech sector as a whole continues its march upwards. Those heavyweight tech companies lending quite a bit of strength to the benchmark. And then you have, the others that are not gaining as much. Asian Paints, UPL, Bajaj Finserv, all gaining about 0.4% or 0.5% each. Among the losers, you have Bharti Airtel, which is losing about 2.6%. Perhaps to a certain extent, the board meeting to consider fundraise is not being seen as such a positive for the company right now, indicative of a bit of frailty perhaps. Power Grid Corporation losing about 1.4%, Maruti Suzuki around 1% or so, Eicher Motors also looking a little weak, down about 1% or so. Now, among the sectors, you have the likes of IT, as I mentioned, that is doing quite well for itself and is the outperformer, but isn't gaining too much, about 0.7% higher. Nifty Bank is looking just a tad bit weak. You have the PSU bank space, however, that is in the green. That is 0.2% higher at this point. Pharma also 0.2% higher. FMCG as much as 0.4% higher. By the way, in the recent past, it's done quite well for itself, the FMCG basket as a whole. The metal pack is looking just a tad bit weak, down about 0.2%. By the way, oil and gas as a pack is also doing quite well, and that's on account of the rise in crude oil prices that you've seen in the recent past. Crude oil overnight also rose, and that's because of a depletion in US inventory levels, and that's despite the fears of the impact of the Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus. Back home, speaking of the COVID-19 virus, that's something that you need to pay attention to very closely. Of course, a lot of people have warned of a third wave. There are some studies that have said that India stands at risk of contracting quite a few virus cases if the pace of vaccination is not increased, and right enough, you have the number of cases rising quite substantially in Kerala. However, that seems to be just one pocket of worry. Hopefully that doesn't spread to the rest of the country, but that could be a major downside to the kind of rally that we've seen in the recent past. Of course, there are foreign brokerages that are warning that perhaps the Indian stock market is running too far, too fast, and we're due for a correction. But of course, a lot of people will say that at this juncture, considering that we are at all-time highs. You do bear in mind also that you've seen quite a bit of selling by both foreign institutions as well as domestic institutions. In yesterday's session, both of those groups of investors sold, and that's certainly something to bear in mind.